Welcome to the Daily Article Podcast for Friday, January the 19th, 2024. I'm Chris Elkins from the Denison Forum, narrating today's article written by Dr. Ryan Denison. Today marks the 51st annual March for Life in Washington, D.C. However, when the event first started on January the 22nd, 1974, it was meant to be a one-time protest against the evils of abortion. Its organizers turned it into an annual event when, quote, it became apparent that congressional protection for the unborn was not on the horizon. End quote. Their assessment is even more correct now than it was back then. But honestly, that should not come as a surprise. After all, the government can rarely agree on anything, much less on an issue as divisive as abortion. Perhaps that's why the president, who famously quipped that the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help," turned his attention back to the people in looking for a solution. When President Ronald Reagan issued an executive order 40 years ago to announce the first National Sanctity of Life Day in 1984, he concluded the proclamation by stating, "I call upon the citizens of this blessed land to gather on that day in homes and places of worship to give thanks for the gift of life and to reaffirm our commitment to the dignity of every human being and the sanctity of each human life." End quote. He understood that the best way to protect life is to value life, and that is fundamentally a moral issue rather than a political one. And as Drs. Mark Turman and Jim Denison discussed in a recent episode of the Denison Forum podcast titled Why We Must Choose Life, that tends not to be the way people view the issue of abortion today. Find a link to the Denison Forum podcast in today's episode notes. So, how can we change that view of abortion? When actress Sarah Snook recently accepted her Emmy for Best Lead Actress in a Drama Series, she gave most of the credit to a surprising person, her infant daughter. Snook was pregnant with her while filming parts of the series' 3rd and 4th seasons and took the bulk of her acceptance speech to say, quote, "The biggest thank you, I think, is to someone who won't understand anything that I'm saying at the moment, but I carried her with me the last season, and really, it was her who carried me. It's very easy to act while you're pregnant because you've got hormones raging. It was more than the proximity of her life growing inside me gave me the strength to do this and this performance, and I love you so much. It is all for you from here on out." End quote. I don't know if Snook is pro-life or what her religious beliefs are, but her speech was an excellent reminder that, ultimately, this issue is about people rather than politics. And if we want to change the trajectory of our nation's approach to abortion, that's where it has to start. Getting that right is often easier said than done. You see, when we forget that we're talking about people rather than politics, we set ourselves down the path against which President Reagan warned when he noted that abortion necessarily leads to, quote, "the erosion of our sense of worth and dignity of every individual. To diminish the value of one category of human life is to diminish us all." End quote. And any of us can make that mistake regardless of our position on abortion. The pro-life movement is just as capable of using the unborn as political pawns as those on the pro-choice side. That's typically not the intention, but when abortion shifts from a moral and personal issue to a political one, it's often unavoidable. The best way to guard against that mistake is to view this life as God does, a gift that He has granted us the privilege to steward for as long as we have it. When we remember that every life, whether it's the child, its parents, or even the person with whom you may disagree on this subject, is made in God's image and is of infinite worth to our Heavenly Father, then we are better positioned to defend the value of life from conception to natural death in a way that truly honors its author. How will you honor your author today? Thank you for listening to today's Daily Article podcast. If you would also like to read the Daily Article with its citations and references linked to their sources, find links in the episode notes to read today's article and to subscribe to the Daily Article email newsletter.